Today marks the official withdrawal of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso from the West African regional bloc ECOWAS.
June 5th, 2025, three presidents walk into a room. They decide to dissolve their individual countries and form a superstate, now becoming one nation with one national anthem and one super military. This is the Alliance of Sahel States, which comprise of Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger. What you're about to witness isn't just another African alliance. It's the birth of a superstate that has global superpowers scrambling, Western militaries retreating, and the entire colonial playbook being rewritten in real time. In the dusty heart of West Africa, three nations totaling 72 million people have done the unthinkable. They've expelled every Western soldier from their soil and declared themselves a single country. This is the story of how Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger pulled off the greatest geopolitical coup of the 21st century. But first, a warning. What you're about to discover will challenge everything you think you know about power, sovereignty, and who really controls Africa. The moment everything changed. September 16th, 2023. A secret meeting that would shake the world. Three military leaders, each having seized power through coups, gathered in the shadows to sign what they called the Liptako Gourma Charter. Colonel Assimi Goïta of Mali, Captain Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso, and General Abdourahmane Tiani of Niger weren't just forming another African partnership. They were declaring war on the entire Western colonial system. The charter contained one sentence that would send shockwaves through Paris, Washington and Brussels. Any attack on the sovereignty and territorial integrity of one or more contracting parties will be considered an aggression against the others. Translation: touch one of us and you face all three. But this was just the beginning. What happened next would make global superpowers question everything they thought they knew about African leadership. The Great Expulsion, when David kicked out Goliath. February 2022, Mali fires the first shot. Mali's military government did something unprecedented. They looked at 2,400 French soldiers who had been in their country for 9 years and said two words: get out. France, which had portrayed itself as Mali's savior against terrorism, suddenly found itself branded as an occupying force. But this wasn't just rhetoric. The Malians meant business. January 2023, Burkina Faso doubles down. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, at 37, the world's youngest head of state, gave France's 400 special forces exactly 1 month to pack their bags. By February 18, 2023, not a single French soldier remained in Burkina Faso. The dominoes were falling, but the biggest shock was yet to come. December 2023, Niger delivers the killing blow. When Niger expelled 1,500 French troops and told the United States to close its $110 million drone base, America's largest in Africa, the writing was on the wall. For the first time since the 1960s, not a single Western soldier remained on Sahel soil. But here's where the story gets truly extraordinary. The birth of a nation. Three countries become one. July 6, 2024. Niamey, Niger. A ceremony that would rewrite the map of Africa. The three leaders didn't just renew their military pact. They signed a confederation treaty that transformed them from allies into a single political entity. Colonel Goïta's words that day would echo across the continent. Instead of citizens of Mali, Burkina Faso, or Niger, we'll refer to ourselves as people of the AES. This confederation will one day give way to a full-fledged federation, uniting 72 million people into one community. They weren't just talking about cooperation, they were creating Africa's newest country. The symbolism was deliberate and powerful. By December 2024, they unveiled their flag, logo, and motto: one space, one people, one destiny. By May 2025, their national anthem played simultaneously across all three territories. But symbols don't make superstates. What they did next would prove they were deadly serious. Building a superstate from scratch, the institutions that shocked the world. Within months, the Alliance of Sahel States began constructing the infrastructure of a modern nation-state at breathtaking speed. May 2025, the Confederal Bank launched with 500 billion CFA francs in capital. January 2025, a unified 5,000-strong military force deployed across all territories. March 2025, common customs duties imposed on all non-AES imports. Plans announced for a new currency to replace the French-controlled CFA franc. The economic foundation was staggering, 2.78 million square kilometers, larger than the remaining ECOWAS bloc. Control of 25% of Africa's gold production and Niger's position as the world's seventh largest uranium producer. But the most audacious move was yet to come. The uranium revolution, Europe's energy nightmare. Here's what the international media won't tell you. France built its entire nuclear program, 70% of French electricity, on uranium extracted from Niger under colonial-era contracts. When Niger's new government revoked French company Orano's mining licenses in 2024, they didn't just nationalize a mine, they held Europe's energy security hostage. Suddenly, the lights in Paris depended on the political decisions of African leaders, not French corporate boards. The geopolitical implications were immediate and terrifying for Western powers. Niger alone had been supplying 25.4% of EU uranium imports. Now that supply was under the control of a confederation that had just expelled Western armies and declared economic independence. But the West wasn't going down without a fight. The empire strikes back. Global powers circle the wagons. The international response revealed just how much the AEs threatened the established order. France launched a coordinated isolation campaign, suspending diplomatic relations and portraying the AES leaders as Russian puppets. President Macron initially refused to even recognize the legitimacy of the Niger coup. The United States, caught completely off guard, scrambled to respond to the loss of its strategic bases. The $223 million in annual aid to Niger, supposedly for counter-terrorism, had clearly failed to prevent the country's turn against American influence. ECOWAS became the weapon of choice for international pressure. The regional bloc initially threatened military intervention, then imposed crushing economic sanctions. When those failed to break AES resolve, something unprecedented happened. January 28, 2024, the AES countries simultaneously announced their withdrawal from ECOWAS. West Africa's main regional organization was now fragmenting in real time, but the most dangerous response was yet to come. The Russian gambit. Enter the Wagner factor. Into the vacuum left by Western withdrawal stepped a controversial new partner, Russia. Wagner Group mercenaries, later reorganized as the Russian Africa Corps, deployed across all three AES countries. Mali received 1,000 Russian military contractors, while Burkina Faso and Niger welcomed smaller but significant Russian presences. This wasn't just military support, it was a complete realignment of global power in Africa. Russian companies moved quickly to secure mining contracts that had belonged to French firms for decades. Nordgold already controls 90% of major gold mines in Burkina Faso. China increased Belt and Road investments. Turkey and Iran offered alternative partnerships. The message was clear. The AES had replaced Western dependency with multipolar partnerships between sovereign equals. But the most dangerous challenge still lay ahead. The terror test. Fighting jihad without the West. Here's the brutal reality. The AES formation occurred in one of the world's most dangerous regions. Terrorism statistics for 2024 painted a mixed picture that threatens everything they've built. While Mali saw terrorism deaths decline 21% to 104 fatalities, Niger experienced a shocking 94% increase to 930 deaths, the largest global increase. Burkina Faso reported 1,532 terrorism-related deaths. An estimated 2.8 million people have been internally displaced. Burkina Faso has reportedly lost nearly 50% of its territory to terrorist groups. The primary threats, JNIM, Al-Qaeda affiliate, Islamic State in the Greater Sahara and Boko Haram, adapted quickly to the new security environment. The question haunting every observer: can the AU succeed where Western forces with superior technology and billions in funding failed? The answer would determine not just the Confederation's survival, but the future of African sovereignty itself. The human drama, three leaders who dared to dream. At the heart of this geopolitical revolution are three extraordinary individuals who risked everything to challenge the global order. Ibrahim Traoré, 37, Burkina Faso, a former geology student who had worked in mining, giving him intimate knowledge of how foreign companies looted his country's wealth. His speeches crackle with revolutionary fervor. Westerners consider that we belong to them and our wealth also belongs to them. This era is gone forever. Colonel Assimi Goïta, Mali. Having led 2 successful coups, he understood the mechanics of power and regional survival. His vision was expansive. A Burkinabe or Nigerian will feel at home in Mali without encountering administrative barriers. General Abdurrahman Tiani, Niger. His July 2023 coup was perhaps the most consequential single act in Confederation formation. Controlling uranium supplies to Europe and hosting major Western bases made his defection a strategic earthquake. Together, these three men accomplished what many considered impossible: the voluntary creation of a new African state through merger of existing countries. But their success came with a target on their backs. The breaking point. External pressure intensifies. June 2025, the Confederation faces its greatest test yet. Ibrahim Traoré's warning that month revealed the intense pressure. Every day we are approached by imperialists who want to push one of the three states to betray the others. The isolation campaign was having effects. Some ECOWAS countries refused to recognize AE's passports. Western governments maintained diplomatic distance. Economic pressure mounted as traditional trade relationships were severed. Internal challenges multiplied. All three governments emerged from military coups and faced pressure to demonstrate democratic legitimacy while maintaining Confederation unity. The promised transitions to civilian rule had to be managed without compromising the integration project. Most critically, the terrorism threat remained undefeated. The new joint military force showed promise, but proving that African solutions could succeed where Western intervention failed would require time the Confederation might not have. The continental awakening. Africa watches and waits. The AE's formation resonated far beyond the Sahel, inspiring Pan-African movements and reviving dreams of continental unity. Student movements at universities across Africa promoted the AES as a model. African Liberation Day 2025 featured Confederation flags from Cairo to Cape Town. Diaspora organizations globally organized support campaigns. Other military governments took notice. Chad, Guinea and Gabon expressed interest in closer cooperation. Togo was reportedly considering full membership, having already signed customs agreements. The Pan-African dimension wasn't merely symbolic. The AAS leaders consistently framed their project as a stepping stone toward broader African unity, making the Confederation a pioneer rather than an isolated experiment. But the question remained, would they survive long enough to inspire others or become a cautionary tale? The economic revolution. Building sovereignty from scratch. The AE's economic strategy represented the most radical departure from post-colonial norms since independence. The planned replacement of the CFA franc struck at the heart of French financial control. The CFA system required AES countries to deposit 50% of foreign reserves with the French treasury. a colonial-era arrangement that guaranteed French access to African resources. The new AES currency, backed by vast natural resources, would break this cycle. Gold, uranium, and agricultural products would provide the foundation for complete monetary independence. Mining nationalization accelerated. Niger's revocation of Orano's uranium licenses was followed by similar moves across the Confederation. The goal, ensure mineral wealth served national development rather than foreign extraction. Agricultural development received equal attention. Plans to develop 2 million hectares could transform the AES from food importing region to major exporter. But economic sovereignty required more than good intentions. It needed global acceptance that remained uncertain. The moment of truth. What happens next? June 2025, the Alliance of Sahel States stands at a crossroads. They've successfully expelled Western armies, built new institutions, and begun constructing an alternative economic system. Their confederation spans territory larger than Nigeria, with a population of 72 million and resources worth hundreds of billions. But the hardest tests lie ahead. The security challenge remains paramount. Can Russian military contractors and joint AES forces succeed where Western intervention failed? Terrorism statistics suggest the threat has adapted, not disappeared. Economic sustainability presents complex challenges. Translating resource wealth into broad-based development while building modern institutions requires expertise and time. International isolation attempts continue. The Confederation must build alternative relationships while avoiding complete marginalization from global institutions. Most critically, can they prove that African solutions work? The verdict of history. Africa rewrites the rules. The Alliance of Sahel States has already achieved the seemingly impossible. In less than 2 years, 3 small African countries successfully challenged global superpowers, expelled foreign armies, and began constructing a new state. Their success has inspired continental movements and demonstrated that alternatives to neo-colonial relationships are possible. The baobab tree on their flag symbolizes their intention to stand for centuries, rooted in African soil. The stakes extend far beyond the Sahel. If the AAS succeeds in building a prosperous, secure confederation, it could serve as a model for African unity globally. If it fails, the failure might discourage similar experiments for generations. External pressures persist as foreign powers attempt to divide the alliance. Internal challenges multiply as the Confederation confronts complex realities of nation-building in one of the world's most challenging environments. But the fundamental achievement cannot be reversed. 3 African nations have proven that alternatives to Western dependency are possible, that military governments can pursue continental unity, and that small countries can challenge superpowers when they act collectively. In Ibrahim Traoré's words, this era is gone forever. The Alliance of Sahel States has ensured that unchallenged Western dominance in Africa is finished. What comes next will be written by Africans themselves for the first time in over a century. The revolution has begun. The only question is, who will join them and who will try to stop them?